Hey everybody, it's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Alto Music headquarters, and today we are here with my good friend Nick Lee of Moontooth and Riot V. Thank you for your time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, man.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. A lot of great things are happening for Moontooth, right?
Yeah, finally getting our second album out.
Yep, Crux. It's, and I just watched the YouTube video yesterday. You worked with Mark Morton, the Lamb of God, right?
Yeah, we worked with Mark Morton and Machine, who did, he produced Sacrament and Ashes of the Wake. He did a few Clutch records that me and our drummer Ray especially grew up loving. He did some Every Time I Die.
Can't go wrong with that.
I know first time we spoke, he did a live record, I think, for King Crimson, and we talked about that.
That's a pretty diverse resume.
Yeah, he has a very diverse resume, and he's an awesome producer and engineer, and our drummer Ray has always produced and engineered all of our recordings, and he was especially excited to work with Machine. So Machine was on board, and then he brought Mark into the picture too.
Which is awesome. Did working with these guys allow to bring in some newer elements to Moontooth that maybe you didn't have with the first record?
Yeah, kind of. It was the first time ever working with somebody that wasn't, the four of us. So, but we were on one hand, we were very ready to do that. We were ready to try something different and to try to just have that experience in making an album, to work with a producer. But they didn't really he didn't so much change anything or add, but just take the package that we had made and just interpreted it. He just kind of saw it through his vision, and which wasn't that different than ours. So it was interesting to see what things we agreed on and what things we didn't agree on. And then when we didn't agree, we would sometimes butt heads, but a lot of the times it would be he would change something slight, and your first reaction is to go I don't know, that's not the way I've been playing it for a year, I don't think that's possible. But then you hear it back after a couple times, you're like, shit, you're right, that's better, and so there were things like that.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Do you consider Crux to just be from a conceptual standpoint, maybe a direct follow-up to your first record, or do you think that this record more or less stands out in its own right?
I think both in a way. I think lyrically there is a progression that kind of makes sense. It's very much a reflection of where we are now, and it's the same as the last album, Chrome Paragon, was a reflection of, a few years ago. Now we're a little older, and the stakes are a little higher, and we've had a lot of amazing opportunities in the last couple years, but we've also experienced a lot of serious letdowns and things like that, and we're all definitely at this particular point of life where it's kind of is this going to work or not? Are we going to be able to do this forever, or are we going to have to figure out another way to live? And so that's really the Crux definitely represents where we all are in our lives. Whereas Chrome Paragon, the last album, was kind of just this kind of wild, fun, encouraging, exciting thing. Crux is more of this more realistic and
is it fair to say
daunting kind of thing.
Is it fair to say you took it maybe a little more seriously, or?
Yeah, in more ways than one. We took it more seriously. I don't know if that will be the first thing you think when you hear some of the songs, but yeah, for sure. It got very serious,
Yeah. Now, I've always thought that Moontooth's music was fairly experimental. I see hard rock elements in there. I see a lot of different types of metal in there. So is it fair to say that Moontooth likes to experiment with different sounds?
Yeah, for sure. That's always kind of been the goal, was to not be just one thing. We all really love every type of music, and me and our drummer Ray came from a different band, that was playing its own blend of weird metal and rock and other elements. And that band broke up, so when we started Moontooth, we knew right away we didn't want to get a traditional metal singer, and that we didn't want to really just go for one thing. It was always about kind of freedom, and that's I think you can hear that in the music. There's really no boundaries.
Your music is very free, and I saw that. The first time I saw you was opening for Killswitch Engage back in March 10th, 2016. 16.
Oh, it was 16, right?
Yep. I was at spring break in college at the time, senior year. That's how I remember it.
So yeah, that was right after the last record came out.
Yeah. But then, you also played with Candiria, and then you've played with Godmaker, our mutual friends. You've played with many different types of bands. So I think by having these different sounds, you could play with many different bands as well, right?
Yeah, we play with Dillinger Escape Plan, but we play with Weed Eater. It's kind of like those are pretty polar opposites, but somehow, it works. We went on tour with Fit for an Autopsy. We went on tour with Thank You Scientists. Those are very different sounding bands, but I think that anyone who likes live music would like Moontooth, and it's got fast songs and slow songs, so
yeah,
it kind of works and kind of doesn't work with everybody. But I think that's the confusion that sometimes comes with hearing us for the first time. But we like that. It's good.
Yeah, confusion actually always leads to good things because it makes you like want to look into it even more.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of records I've heard where I was like, wow, this is interesting, but like I really don't understand what the singer's doing, or like I don't really understand what the drummer's doing. Like it's so strange, and then you always kind of want to come back to it, and then eventually it might become your favorite record because it made you kind of really, I don't know, look at music in a different way.
Of course. Now, do you maybe notice like a different reaction depending on what type of band you're playing with?
Kinda. I don't know. That's hard to say. I feel like when we play super metal shows, like super heavy shows, people aren't really sure what to make of us. And a lot of the times they loosen up as the show goes, And when we play more, I guess, like prog rock, or when we did Thank You Scientist, I think people were like, immediately like, what the fuck is this? Because we came out with like very loud, very heavy, and very aggressive. But then once they kind of, like, I think the dust settles a little bit, they hear all the melody, and they hear all the progressive,
yeah, elements in
shit
there.
on the drums and the guitar, and I think, they find, I think anybody can find something that they like in it, which...
Of course. And continuing with the concept of playing live, because seeing you guys play multiple times, I noticed, going back to the freedom thing, there is an element of freedom on stage. You guys are just going all out, which is something I really find amusing to watch you guys live. Like, amusing, like, as in it's really interesting. And what I was curious is, when you are practicing, or you're in the recording studio, versus playing this stuff at a show, how different of an experience is it playing your music?
Very different. Especially like tracking guitars for the new record. Me and Ray were like tearing our hair out to just, for every riff, there's got to be like the sound for each riff. Changing amps and pedals and really trying to, like, I'm trying to communicate what I want to him, who is also in the band but also the engineer and also very good with dialing in sounds and finding guitar tones. So I end up playing things so many times to the point where it becomes pretty taxing after a while. But that's how we get good results, though, And it would be easier to just roll in and just have fun live, just cut it once. But when it comes to a record, I really want to create just like a world within just guitar tones, So every song is like its own character in it, so it's got to have these features. So it's probably more rewarding, in the end of the day, like when this thing finally just fucking comes out after 2 years of working on it, pretty much, like that'll be more rewarding. But I have so much more fun playing live,
Yeah, because is it fair to say, not to discredit either or, but like playing live, there's almost kind of room for mistakes, and there's a little more freedom playing live, right?
Yeah, like if I hit a note that if my vibrato sucked on something, but I was like really running around or jumping off my cab or like getting in people's faces and people in the crowd are smiling and enjoying it and having fun, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
And if my tone's not perfect, it doesn't really matter, because as long as there's this exchange of energy and it feels good. It's more about how it feels than what it sounds like. Particular moments in the song have to be perfect or not. It's just, does it feel good? Yes, awesome. No, oh, what the fuck are we gonna do about this now? But you only have that half hour to an hour or whatever it is, to pull it off. So
yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
You have to be on your toes and just make it happen.
Yeah,
that's more exciting.
Yeah, of course. Now, as a lot of people know, you also play with Riot V, which I would say is very different from Moontooth.
Yeah.
So, in terms, obviously the playing process is different, but in terms of like a mind frame or the live presence or just playing with these guys in general, how different is it? Is it completely different, or is there maybe any similarities? You're just playing your instrument.
No, it's pretty different. with Riot, I'm definitely. I think my role is simplified. I do leads, but I'm more on the rhythm guitar side, and I just look at myself in Riot as like a soldier. I just have to like play the shit perfectly and be entertaining. Be put on a good show and be charismatic and make it so people enjoy watching us. So in that way, it's pretty simple. With Moontooth, it'll boil down to the same thing, but there's one guitar. There's a lot of sounds and pedals, and it's a little more heady, I guess, and it's also, it's my own music, so I'm a little bit more, like specific about how I want every little last thing, and so it's not quite as laid back to me, but that's more mental. I mean, the guitar stuff in Riot is not like it's no picnic. I have to make sure that I'm really warmed up and ready to do the stuff, and the pressure is a little different because I'm trying to honor a 30 going on 40-year legacy of that name.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that I don't disappoint a fan. Like, I'm the last person in the band that should be disappointing them in the sense that I'm the new guy. I don't want to be disappointing anybody in the crowd.
Of course. Does maybe working with Riot 5 allow you to bring in some newer elements to Moontooth and vice versa, though? Like, does maybe working with one project help the other?
Yeah. I mean, it just keeps me playing a lot, which I need. I feel like, especially playing live and just needing to practice all the time. And not that I wouldn't anyway, but I would probably be more apt to just like, I'm just gonna write songs and come up with stuff. Whereas like when I play with Riot, I'm on the metronome and I'm really working hard to make sure I'm tight. But I've noticed like some of the more old school vibe has leaked into Moontooth. And I have some songs that I'm trying to get on the next Riot record that, do vice versa, I think.
Awesome.
Riot opened me up to a lot of old school metal that I was aware of but didn't really know,
Yeah.
And just finding all these great bands and riffs and songs, I think that got in there.
You'll be the new kid before you know it. Riot 5 will be metalcore. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I don't know I don't think that's going to happen. They're very true to, at this stage, like the 88 to 90 power metal era of Riot, but there's other elements too. They introduce some of the earlier stuff in some of the new songs too.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Now, going back to the songwriting of Moontooth, is there anything with each song that comes first? Are you like a more guitar-driven band, or is there maybe like a lyrical concept that you guys follow and write music according to that? Or do you like have to hear drum beats in order to write music? Is there a specific methodology that you always follow with composition?
It's not so specific, but it'll be me or Ray. We'll have a riff. That's usually where it starts. John sometimes has lyrics before him, and I'll just have little pieces, and he'll bring me like his melodies and stuff, and then that'll influence what I'm working on. I nowadays I try to bring less finished songs to the table. Like I'll bring finished songs still, but I like bringing just like, this could be a verse and this could be the main riff and this could be a chorus, but like let's just throw it in the pot together and stir it up and see, when everybody's ingredients are in there, what it actually comes out as. And that's my favorite songs on Crux are the ones that we went into working with Machine and Mark with that were least done, because I was not as attached to every little last bit of it, and if it was kind of like, this is cool, but I'm not married to it. If you have a better idea, let me know. Whereas songs that we had been playing for years, it was a little, maybe or a year or 2 years, like, or that I had written for 3 years ago or something. It was really hard to unhear it how I've been hearing it. So, yeah, I don't know. It's when we write songs, more and more so as time goes on, we're just like collaborating more on it, from the ground up, rather than, hey, here's my song, like put your thing on it. It's more like, hey, I have like the impetus for a song, like help me with it,
Yeah, that's awesome that there's like a mutual partnership and like there's not like one main songwriter or something like that.
Well, we got only gotten closer from working really hard on this one thing for like the last almost 6 years, 6 years.
Wow.
And I mean, me and Ray were playing in bands together since we were 13. We're almost 30.
Wow.
So it's like we're very much able to answer each other's sentences musically, and then Vin and John are now now we're being able to do that too and speak that same language. So
Cool. But is there like ever a preconceived idea with, especially with the making of this record? Like, did you go before even a song was written? Did you like have an idea that you revolved Crux around? Where you like it has to sound like this, or there's a concept of this?
yeah, this time more so than before. The title came up. I'm not exactly sure when, but like when we were still getting the songs together, and it really helped shape the mood of the whole thing. I think that this one has more of, it's more like consistent in its mood, and I feel like it it has more of like a logical path than the last one, if that makes sense. It kind of, if you really read the lyrics and listen to the way the songs change between melody and mood and major and minor, it all kind of has a story to it. And it's very much, specifically John, our singer's story of the last couple of years of making sacrifice to do art and to play in a band and to not live a normal life and not attain the things that maybe the people you grew up with do, because you're just, you want, you know, this one thing, and you're willing to kind of put everything else on hold.
Yeah.
Which kind of, you know, is one thing when you're 21, and then when you're 31, it starts to become a lot more serious, and you have to really make a choice, you know.
Definitely. Being in a band is like a really, it's a decision. It's almost like like a band is almost kind of like the only relationship where polygamy is legal, almost.
I mean, like for me, I don't really, I don't stress about it. I don't really, you know, for me personally, like I get tired of, you know, the pitfalls of like, you know, touring all the time and then having to come home and bounce back and forth and with jobs and everything else. But I mean, I'm not worried about how old I am, and I know I'm doing this for the rest of my life. But I think it's and everybody in Moontooth is like that. But society kind of puts this, you know, they start turning the screws on you a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
subtly and then not so subtly sometimes, and you start to feel like, wait, am I allowed to do this? Can I do this for the rest of my life? You know, and the anxiety of that, and then like so the word crux and the whole idea of crux is you're standing and looking down those two paths. You know?
Did you see the? I saw this meme one time, and I thought it was so messed up, but so funny at the same time. It was a teenage girl, a girl in her 20s, and a girl in her 30s. The teenage girl was like, "Oh wow, you're in a band." The girl in her 20s is like, "You're in a band," and then the girl in her 30s is just like, "Ah, you're in a band." Like, do you think that's a fairly accurate description?
Yeah, it's accurate to some people. I mean, you know, you can't really generalize. Everybody has a different perspective on it. You know, to people who don't like obsess over music like you or I do, you know, it might seem silly. Like, oh, that's nice. What else do you do? You know, like, oh, do you play? You know, do you play around here? You know,
Yeah.
It's like it's okay. You know,
is the music you play heavy like Creed? Like,
yeah.
That was the best question that I was ever asked.
I mean, sometimes I've gotten that, you know, oh, you like rock? Is it like, do you like Nickelback? And but like for me, I would never condescend or insult someone if that was like what they honestly thought that was rock and they liked it. I would never like make them feel bad. But it's just funny because you're just trying to relate, and like I have this conversation with the guys all the time. This is our live, and we obsess over it and every last little twist and turn in the music, or should the melody go this or this way or this way or this way, or should we come in here, or should we come in here? And it's kind of like most people, music is just background, you know what I mean? But like that's not who we're writing for, you know. We want people who really want to.
You don't consider it a hobby.
Definitely not, and we want people to experience it with us, you know, and really dive in. I think that's what the album is about, you know, is to really dig into it.
Absolutely. And two more questions I have for you. Kind of this story that you're demonstrating with Crux. You know, I mean, I know you didn't write the lyrics or anything like that, but you guys clearly have this story that you're addressing to the audience. Are you trying to maybe like have the audience maybe relate to this personally, or can this story also be open to interpretation?
Definitely a little of both. And I won't try to speak for John, but I think that everybody experiences the things that he talks about on this record. I think everybody, and it doesn't matter how old you are or what you're into, it's you experience this, the pain of sacrificing something you really, really care about for, you know, your true calling, you know, what really speaks to you, you know. But you can love a lot of things, but some things you just need to do.
Yeah,
You know?
of course.
And I think anybody could relate to that
Yeah.
element of it.
Words of wisdom from Lemmy. If you think you're too old to rock and roll, that means that you are. Exactly.
One of many good Lemmy quotes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I actually looked it up on Brainy Quote, and I got like 40 pages. I was just like, oh, fuck this. I'm too drunk to read all this stuff. And before we go, the final question I'd like to have you is, because I really, from my experiences and just seeing the talent from your area, Long Island has some amazing talent out there. I mean, our mutual friends in Crypto Deer, like Mike Monaco is the one who told me about you guys.
Yeah, we're playing Vitus with them a week from today.
Yep, and I'm so pissed that I'm going to miss it. I feel so bad.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We'll be here a lot, I'm sure, this year, or next year, 2019.
Awesome. But, like, again, Crypto Deer, Extinction AD, another great Long Island band.
Yeah.
And, Fit for an Autopsy is from your region. So was there like a scene that Moontooth kind of cut their teeth in? Or being a band that has already toured so much, were you a band more or less that just really had to, like, you were more focused on getting out of your hometown?
We were definitely focused on getting out, but we played Long Island and Brooklyn like a lot, like way more than we probably even should have in the first couple years. Speaking of Lemmy, the thing that I was, one of my favorite things that I've read from Lemmy is him talking about how a band is a band if they're working, and working is touring, playing shows, That's when you're a band. If you're not working, then you're not really a band. And I really took that to heart and wanted that ethos to be part of Moontooth, and not just not be too good to play anywhere. At least in the beginning, we'd play Long Island or Brooklyn every single weekend, and then we'd get little runs up to Jersey and Philly and upstate and wherever, Virginia, and then it just kind of kept growing from there. But after the first couple years, we didn't say yes to everything anymore, and we started to space it out. But
like a radius clause concept or something like that, right?
Pretty much. They started to matter a little bit more, because when we first started, we were nobody knew anything about the band, so it was kind of like it didn't really matter if we played more than we should have, because it was all about just developing a foundation, and that's why we did that for the first couple of years, was like, let's just play everywhere. There's going to be a bunch of them that there's 3 to 10 people at, but those 3 to 10 people, will hang if we keep doing this, and it'll grow. So that was kind of always the mission. And then finally, 4 years into it, we started to get offers for tours with bands like Intronaut, and to do it on a little bit of a higher level.
I saw Intronaut with Between the Buried and Me in 2015. Oh my god, that show was amazing.
Yeah, very amazing live band, for sure. And it was great watching them every night.
Yeah, and I mean, but would you say that there is like an awesome scene in Long Island, or, because I interviewed Extinction AD when they toured with Havoc and Jungle Rot, and they had their fair share of like constructive criticism about it, but like, I mean, I don't live in Long Island. It's sort of a bitch to get to sometimes, but like,
I think that there's like a lot of talent, and there's like a lot of bands, and a lot of great bands in all these different genres. I think that the like climate of the island socially and politically, and it's economically, it doesn't really support like a flourishing scene, because there's like only a couple venues, and they're going to cater to who's going to bring in the bar crowd on a Friday and Saturday night, and it's not going to be original metal.
Yeah.
But there's a couple, of course, that do it. Like Amityville Music Hall is doing a really good job.
Yeah, Revolution is awesome.
Revolution is too. But if you're starting out as a young band, or as a brand new band, like Revolution's a big room, and if nobody knows who you are, it's like there's not a lot of places for like people to start. And I'm noticing that more in Brooklyn now, where I feel like when we even before Moontooth, like being in high school and playing in here, I'd play Trash Bar all the time, and the Charleston, and Grand Victory, and I guess there's like venues always come and go, but I feel like now when friends from out of town ask me where to play, like when you're new to Brooklyn or new to Long Island, it's really hard. It's like only a couple places.
Well, I think there's a lot of great places like St. Vitus, Lucky 13, Knitting Factory, Gold Sounds, all great places.
They still are, but it's harder for a newer band to, like a brand new, nobody's ever heard of your band. They still can, but I feel like on Long Island, it's especially hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes to venues, like I've always hated like the European use of the word. Like just because you have a section of the floor that's like 2 inches higher than the rest of the restaurant, that doesn't count as a venue.
Yeah.
I'm like.
Well, that's true, but even that would be great.
Yeah.
Like me and our singer John, we lived together for a long time. We used to do shows in our. We lived in our friend's house, and he used to like throw these crazy parties and shows all the time, and it was great. It would just be, artists and musicians and just weirdos, and we would just throw these crazy parties, and everybody would come out and everybody would have a good time, and it was so much harder to do that at like a local bar,
Yeah.
but
Well,
it's hard to do in that. It's a little bit easier to do here. I feel like there it's very residential. It's like everybody's right on top of each other, and most people don't want to listen to the.
yeah.
They
Well,
don't want to deal with it over there, in Long Island.
Yeah. Well, St. Vitus has always been a good example. I mean, words of wisdom from Artie. He says, you want a venue? Take out a loan, buy a shit ton of fucking beer.
Yeah.
Start your own venue, get a good sound system, get your own venue, get people to want to come back, have a kick-ass show.
Yeah.
Get people to want to come back, and
They've done a fucking amazing job. That's like, I don't know how that's not anybody's favorite place to play. It's certainly ours. Like, it's always a great vibe, and you're doing something right when people just go there just to go there, and
yeah,
and just to hang out and listen to music and see who's playing, and
yeah.
it's a great place.
It's also convenient going to a show there when you work right here.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to get to, but it never stops me or any of us.
Yeah, it's a long 10-minute walk for me from here.
It's like a long, probably
10-hour drive.
No, the drive's easy. The drive's like an hour, but if you're trying to take trains out, it'd probably take you 2.5 hours or something.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for coming here today for this interview. Obviously, Crux, is there like a release date that you're allowed?
It's still a little, I don't want to say specifically yet, but early 2019.
Awesome.
First few months of 2019.
And obviously you'll be doing a shit ton of touring to support it.
Yep. All that stuff's being figured out now. But we'll start dropping music at the very beginning of 2019, and then all that other news will follow.
Yep. And you're heading to 70,000 Tons of Metal with Riot V?
Yep, that's the next Riot gig.
Yep.
Yep.
I've never been on that boat. I would totally get seasick on that freaking thing.
I did it once, actually, and I'd never been on a cruise in my life.
You played it, or you just with Riot V? Yeah,
or? In 2015 we did it, and it was fucking awesome.
Really?
It was really cool. I mean, just for I saw Napalm Death twice. I saw Cannibal Corpse, Behemoth. Saw Municipal Waste at like 3 a.m. I saw Venom, and it was just like, you're on a fucking boat. I saw Trouble. I saw fucking...
That boat...
I saw all these cool bands I never thought I would see.
I'm surprised none of those boats sank on how brutal it gets.
It's massive. It's like a luxury cruise line.
Yeah, I've been on those before, but I don't know. I have the worst sea legs you'll ever see in your life.
It was pretty trippy.
Yeah, I can imagine. But Nick, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex.
Everybody, Nick Lee of Moontooth and Riot 5, Crux coming out in 2019. Be on the lookout for that. We'll see you next time in Heavy New York, everybody.